Good afternoon. My name is Catherine Hall.
Good afternoon, Catherine. I'm Donald.
If I may have a seat.
You may.
Thank you for agreeing to interview me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Do you mind if I take a couple of notes?
Oh, please do.
Thank you. Now, what questions can I answer for you?
Well, first, what do you know about our company?
Well, I did a little research on Texas Health Resources, and I was quite impressed. I found that as of April, for the last 3 years, they've been named to the Fortune and Great Places to Work #1 best place to work for healthcare in the nation, and that the Dallas Morning News has named the company in their top 10 for the last 5 years. They also have 24 different facilities in this area and several allied facilities as well. So it just cemented my idea of Texas Health Resources as one of the premier places to work here.
Good, you've certainly done your homework on that.
Thank you.
How do you see yourself fitting into our corporate mission, vision, and values?
Well, I looked at that too, and I really think that your dedication to the health of the community is exactly what I'm looking for in an employer. Also, your vision really takes a long-term look at the patient-provider relationship. Now, the values that you have, I was really excited about because respect, integrity, compassion, and excellence are right in line in what I'm looking for also.
Good. You've done that area well too. Well, what is the key to success when you're communicating to others in the workplace? Because this is definitely a team position.
Well, I think it really begins with respect, and because if you respect the position that each person has on a team, then that goes a long way to cementing the team. Also, cooperation. Really, a team is no place to withhold information or resources. Everybody has to share what they have and what they can offer. Also, everybody gets down, everybody gets bogged down once in a while, and a little encouragement and maybe celebrating some interim successes go a long way toward that team building and trust building.
Good. What have you found in your experience is the key to developing a good team?
I think you have to understand what they are going to add to the team. Each person, not just look at them as a lump or a group, and you have to communicate that to them. Once they understand that you're looking at them as an individual, then I think they will feel more part of the team.
Could you provide me with an example of a time in your career when you successfully organized a diverse group of people to accomplish a task, built a team actually?
Built a team? Well, I think that in my experience, there were times where I had people. A concrete example would be probably at Steak and Ale when I had different groups. I have many examples, but that's one where I had many people that were drawn from not just finance, where I was, or not just marketing, where I had landed, but were drawn from many different walks of life. And we were supposed to do a specific mission. We were supposed to get a new concept off the ground. And it was a little daunting because we didn't all speak the same language, so to speak. But by drawing on each other's strengths and diversity, we got the job done, and we launched that new concept.
Do you have one in the health care area?
I do not. I do have one example where I worked for Cigna Health Plan.
Okay.
And a healthcare company. It was an
Right.
HMO. And in that, I suddenly became the manager of the general accounting field. And I was the manager of the revenue accounting field, but my coworker suddenly went into the hospital for several months. So I gained a very large team for me, 17 additional people, and it was in chaos through no fault of my coworkers because everything had been changed from the top down because we were doing some new software and hardware installation. And a quarter of the employees were actually temporaries with no prior experience or no real cohesiveness. And then we had a very divisive group. And so it was necessary for me to get things going to terminate the ringleader of the divisive group, which calmed things down. And there was one young lady that was temporary, but she did not have a high school diploma. She had dropped out at 16. And I wanted to hire her, but I could not because she did not have a high school diploma or a GED. So I bought her a GED prep book, I paid for her GED course, and coached her during lunch. And she passed her GED. It took her 2 times, but she passed, and I was able to hire her, and we were able to install the software and the hardware and not have too much appreciable employee downtime.
Quite an accomplishment. What is your personal approach to organizing, planning, and prioritizing your work? How do you go about that?
Well, first I look at what the end goals of each of, say, the projects that are needed to be done. I look at the goals and their timing. And then I try to walk each one of those backwards to see what the interim steps need to be to get there. Then I try to look at everything as a whole and see if there's any unintended consequences or if there's going to be any gaps so that things aren't as efficient, and try to adjust that so that I sequence everything all together, multiple projects, so that it's as efficient as possible.
Do you have an example of that?
Actually, I do that all the time in my present profession. Sometimes I have upwards of 20 different projects going on with multiple deadlines.
Okay.
And I need to know what has to happen ultimately. I need to know when it has to happen and what else might get that bogged down because it also has to happen. So a lot of times I lay them out graphically or on a calendar.
So you have experience with multiple projects
Yes.
simultaneously.
Right.
Would you consider analyzing data, information, or situations of strength? And how do you come to that conclusion?
Well, that was actually my first career, was financial analysis. And so that's kind of part of what I do every day. I look at things and analyze them. I try to get information about things and make my decisions then. I consider myself an analytical person.
What industry was that? Not necessarily what company, but what industry?
Well, I worked in the food industry, in the actually food away from home industry, restaurant industry, but actually a broad range of industries. Insurance, I worked for a couple of insurance companies and 2 restaurant companies, and then another insurance company that was actually part of JCPenney, but it was an insurance company. So a broad range of industries.
What are some of your other relevant strengths?
Well, I think that I'm able to communicate with a number of different kinds of people. I graduated from high school in another country where I was a minority, and that led me to respect many cultures and many ways of thinking that might not be traditionally North American. I think that is a strength in a diverse workplace like you have here. I also try to communicate with people where they are and not presuppose that they all think like I do.
Okay. On the other end of the spectrum, what are some of your relevant weaknesses?
I like to get things exactly right, and I have to fight that on the bogging down end of things. I have to balance the need for perfection with the need to get things finalized and done. So I constantly work on that. The other thing is I need to build on my experience level in my current career roles, to build on my clinical experience that I have had in the excellent program in the college I'm at.
Okay. Could you give me an example of a time when your ethics were tested in the workplace?
Oh, yes, I can. My very first law firm job, I was asked by my supervising attorney to do something that immediately I could tell it was not only unethical, it was illegal. And I thought that was a bad way to start off my legal career. So I went to him privately and calmly, which took me a couple of hours, and laid out exactly why I thought it might be detrimental to him, my supervisor, and how it might come back to haunt him, my supervisor. He blew up, which I expected him to, but after thinking how it might affect him, he decided that it was a good idea not to do what the client wanted us to do. And in fact, right after I left the law firm, he obtained a position, a political position, which he had been wanting.
Okay.
But there would have been a lot of scrutiny, but he was free of scandal, at least that scandal. And so he was not blemished by the mistake that was almost made. The client, on the other hand, went to federal prison on an unrelated issue.
Well, thank you very much for the interest in our company.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time.
It's been my pleasure.
Well, thank you. And are there any next steps? Will you be letting me know?
Yes, we'll be in contact with you. There'll be another series of interviews to look in depth at some of these areas in your background and at some of the areas in the position.
Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure, Ms. Hall.